Do you remember when you were a kid and people were saying that you were the future? It's been said over and over and in many different ways, because for reasons that we are able to see clearly now, the world in that moment seemed like it could be better. Today, those kids are all grown up. We are the future and we are reimagining a better world. In the face of everything going on across the planet, we still love, hope, create, and have fun, because these are all the things we want for the future. But why wait until tomorrow? The future is now. You're tuned in to The Future is Now, hosted by Reimagine Spokane. My name is Ryan Louie, and I'm here with Dylan Dressler, the clinic director at the Native Project, one of our first partners in a COVID vaccine clinic years back when, during the height of COVID, was a thing. And yeah, we'll just go ahead and jump right in and get this ball rolling. And Joseph's probably going to cut this so that it won't be so rambly. Dylan, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into this work?
I am an Indigenous citizen, enrolled citizen of the Anina Nation. Our concentration camp is located in Fort Belknap, Montana, but we're traditionally and originally from the Great Lakes area where the white clay deposits were. And so in my language, my tribe's language, Anina means people of the white clay. My grandmother and grandfather, their last names were Returns to War and Buffalo Bull Lodge. So I come from a heavy background of healers and medicine and people that manage the concepts of war and peace. And so my hereditary line comes from those ancestors. I also have some French and Danish in me. But my children, they're Coeur d'Alene and Spokane, and they're enrolled here from the Indigenous area of Spokane. And so I have I was raised by the Kalispels, born and raised here in Spokane, but the Kalispels, I would spend my weekends in summer with my family up there, learning a bunch of traditional medicine and concepts and traditional ways of being with Mother Earth and the water and how to be together in community. My parents made that a huge priority to have exposure and access to community and family. And then, while I was being born, the Native Project was being born. My mother, Tony Lodge, she started this concept of during the Federal Relocation and Termination Acts of the 50s, 60s, and 70s, the U.S. government issued bus and train tickets to Native families and heads of households, mostly men, to jump on these planes and tickets and go work somewhere and relocate. But the goal at that time was to terminate tribal citizenship, meaning if all the tribal citizens removed themselves from the concentration camps called reservations, then they could take that federal trust land back and disband the treaty agreements between those tribes and the U.S. government. So what you saw during that era was a large boom of urban, or we like to call ourselves urban Indians, because we were either forcibly relocated or willingly relocated to larger metropolitan areas like Spokane and Seattle. Growing up in Spokane, I found out there's a lot of different tribes here within Spokane County, over 335 federally recognized different tribal membership and 26,000 American Indian Alaskan Natives, according to 2020 census.
Wow.
And so we are I think we're the sixth largest city in the country that has Native American Indian Alaskan Natives per population. And Washington State is the second largest because we have 29 federally recognized tribes residing in Washington, and King County is the third largest city for Seattle Indian Health and Seattle Indian Health Board.
Really?
So
Wow.
there's a lot of Native businesses, business owners, enterprises, gaming, restaurants, nonprofits, community centers, health centers that are created by a lot of different tribes from all over the community in this state. And so being cognizant and aware of that, I just fell into my work in healthcare administration when I fell in love with public administration. I got my master's at Evergreen and my undergrad at Gonzaga, but I really loved reading about American Indian Alaska Native history, legislation, and policy and law, and how that impacted healthcare and the design of our healthcare system. And so I really delve deep in that. And then so when my mother was creating a clinic in 1999, I was attending high school. By the time it was done being built and relocated here, I was done with my undergrad. And so I was an understudy of one of our previous healthcare administrator, Ali Desato, who became the CEO for the Colville Tribal Health System. But I just plopped in there and I had a culture shock with Western medicine and Indigenous medicine. And I'm like, hey, what is going on? We are a Native health center. We're gonna try to do this. We're gonna integrate some stuff and address the historical trauma and the things behind that on how it impacts our healthcare for our Indigenous people here. And then by 2013, we became a FQHC 330 clinic, which is like CHADS and CMAR, so we could open our doors to everyone. So we saw not only American Indians, but everyone at that point. And so our specialty patient population is homeless, underserved, and American Indian Alaska Natives. We do set aside funding to specifically train our healthcare provider teams, from the CEO to the maintenance man, about trauma-informed care, best practices for Indigenous people in our communities, and addressing the historical trauma while doing current trauma-based care, trauma-informed care. And so that in of itself is very intriguing, interesting, and a challenge, because in a lot of ways, you kind of have to unlearn Western concepts, Western styles, and Western medicine to either be in tandem or adjacent to Indian medicine or in Native health. And so it's interesting to see. It's fun. It's a struggle. It's a challenge. And that's why I keep doing it. I feel like at some point, someday, we will figure this out. But during this journey, we are just doing what our elders have always practiced. You do it for the babies and the elders, and you think 3 generations ahead, and you think 3 generations behind, and you are the 7th generation while you're moving through practice and concept. And so that's me in a nutshell, and that's what I do. I like to be an advocate. I do policy. I help write grants. I help do most of the administrative function. It's just a busy day in the life. Sometimes I do the patient complaints. Sometimes I do the patient compliments. And so it ranges, and it's never a dull day here at Native Project.
Wow, that was an amazing story. It sounds like you've said that a bunch of times.
That was the first time.
Wow, that was great. So this next question, this next question is about being political or civically engaged and what that means to you. Could you explain a little bit of that?
Yeah. So I was raised with the concept and model that we actually use here in our leadership and mentoring practice. It's called being a warrior, nurturer, scholar, and community activist. And in those 4 quadrants of working for the mission here at Native Project, you address and challenge yourself in those 4 areas. What have you done to be a warrior today? What have you done to be a nurturer? What have you done scholastically to better yourself or the community or be aware of? And what have you done as a community activist, being civically engaged? And did you help assist people register to vote? So community activism to me is being cognizant and aware, teaching our generations on how to be politically active, and watching from our current elders and our previous ancestors on all the things that they have done for the past 250 years to survive here. And not only survive, but create new pathways and systems of being politically engaged and responsible. Because a lot of the times, like, I'm a mother of 3 children. I have a teenager who says, I'm not political. And I'm like, you can't say that, my dear. You're an American Indian. You are a federally recognized enrolled tribal citizen. And that is a political designation. It's not a racial designation. It is the legal system's way of saying you are politically enrolled at a federally recognized tribe. You have treaty rights. You get to fish on this land and hunt on this land and be on this land. So you can't say, I am not political, because you are not exempt from that. And so teaching our kids and youth that, it's fun. It's a challenge, but
You
it's
see that light
also,
bulb go off?
yeah. I'm like, you don't get to be exempt, sir. So none of us get to, especially if we're indigenous to this continent, because we don't have that luxury of being exempt from being non-politically engaged. We have to be engaged and aware of both sides of, unfortunately, the conquistadors' system. It's not ours. So we don't take ownership, but we do engage. And there are ways to engage, leader to leader versus having to do the request, file the FOIA, follow the steps. Because sometimes you do have to do that, but then there are times like, all right, I'm calling a consultation. I'm calling a meet and greet now with the governor or with the mayor, because we honestly don't have time to sit and file the FOIA. We have to have this serious discussion. Like with our COVID vaccine clinics, we knew the state rules were not going to apply to us because they knew nothing of our community and of our
Right.
health. And so we were just like, we don't have time. People are dying. We're not going to be able to follow these rules. Sorry if we get thrown in jail.
Sorry,
but
not sorry.
Sorry, not sorry. We're going to save lives first and then throw us in jail later, possibly. But right now, we have to serve our community the best way we know how.
Yeah. And no one went to jail.
And no one went to jail. Oh my gosh. And we saved lives. What the heck? Right?
Yeah. That's
So, yeah.
amazing. So when we think about this election, what would you say is at stake?
When I think about every election, everything is at stake for us. So we are not exempt from either party. We know as traditionalists or as Indigenous people that the right wing and the left wing are the same eagle. So they're on the same eagle, and we are all on the same land. And when in the beginning you came in as our partners, and now it's not in that way. So the relationship has changed, the dynamic has changed, and we have the hereditary memory of knowing at either party, whatever they say, it does not matter. At the end of the day, we are still going to have to move forward and with either party to resolve our issues, have heartfelt conversations, and either unveil the truth and speak our truth. I honestly don't think we wait for, and a stamp of approval, but I think hey, let it be known, this is our right, we're exerting our rights. Everybody else in the community is gonna have to, have their comments and say, but at the end of the day, we know what we have to do to be politically engaged. And sometimes, we hurt each other's feelings, especially at the local level. There are commissioners and city council people who just don't want to engage or participate, either because of ignorance or being scared, or they lose too much things financially or in estate and wealth. And then we know there are the proponents who have gone to jail a couple of times for just marching in the streets for civil rights and civil liberties. And so it's like, both of you we extend offers and hands to both of you being partners and friends. But at the end of the day, we hold dear that dear memory of, we still have a sovereign and independent right to move through our lands and our business and our operations as Indigenous people. And so regardless of the outcome of any election, and this is how we are taught growing up for any Native woman or man, or we just have a innate known concept of, yes, we are from this land, we know our lands and we know our waters. Yes, you are partners, and you either come with us or you don't. We have no time to wait around and get your stamp of approval. We need to move forward in what we're doing. We will go to DC. We will send our advocates. We will write those papers. We will write those grants. We will collectively gather our community to do what is needed. We will do it, and we have done it, and our elders have taught us how to do it. Like my mom, she burned her bra in the 50s and 60s and 70s, but she was the only Native journalist on the Leonard Peltier case, and the FBI literally threatened her at her apartment that first day of the trial and cut her electricity, and said if she wrote anything bad about the FBI and the Federal Bureau of Investigation, she would have consequences And that following day, her friend John Trudell, his family got lit on fire in his house, and his wife and kids were burnt down. And he was a part of the American Indian movement. And so, like, we have living memory and concept of what people's lives take on being in action and being in movement, and the risk that is seriously there, being involved in political activism or community activism, and always outweighing those risks with what factors. Like when I went to No Dapple, we called our native family attorney and said, we're going to No Dapple in South Dakota. If we get arrested, here's contact plans. And because we were ready to stand up and fight for our water, me and my 3 children and my elderly mom, like, they had the grandmas go first. Like, were they gonna, the private police beat the crap out of the grandmas on live TV? No.
Better not.
Well, no, but they did. And so then that's when people showed up in mass.
Oh, man.
And so that's the thing. So, like, we know how to play this game. We've been in parlay with the U.S. government for 250 plus years. And so we know how to be political activists, but we also know at what cost. Do I want this $2 million building or funding, and be okay with the trade-off of, yes, I have to sit and be on your tribal health board for a year? What is the trade-off? Is it the trade-off better for my community in the next decade? With that trade-off, does it have value and reciprocation in that relationship? And if it does, we have to be okay with our leadership's decision on that. And we do practice a lot of matriarchy here, women-led, women-inspired, but there is a balance with the male and female concept of leadership and imagination. And so it's very unique to work here, and it's very enlightening, but it's also, if you're not from the community, it can be very challenging.
Sure, yeah.
So I feel like most of the time my job is refereeing. You're like, okay, we misunderstood that. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, you forgot to mention that in your job description earlier.
Big time, part-time referee.
Yeah. So you kind of touched on this earlier in the About Yourself and the history of the Native Project, but could you address just some of the systems, structures, or gaps that the Native Project brings to the table? And like, there's no question about why healthcare is needed, but like, what is it about the Native Project?
Well, we originally were formed and created from, the mission is to be surrounding the children and families that were forcibly relocated or terminated and moved on into cities. Our mission was to create a safe place. And in creation of that safe place for the youth was the Native Project. And after the first couple of years, because we did a lot of leadership camps, leadership mentoring, anti-gang, anti-bullying, anti-drug and alcohol campaigns with SAMHSA, the federal government. So we incorporated it as a nonprofit then, and it was for the kids. And it was all mission-driven around the Native youth in town. And then it quickly expanded to, well, we're seeing a lot of mental health and SUD issues going on with SUD, substance use disorder issues, like alcohol and drugs. Now it's time to expand those services as a safety net for those kids. And everything that we've expanded upon has been literally a safety net for our kids. So we call it the campaign, you do it for the babies, like literally doing it for the babies and elders, but for most part, the babies. And that's the fun part about being here. You could be the clinic director, but also picking up the trash and watching the kids at community wellness. Like, you get to be humble in that aspect of, you're not exempt from the circle. You still have to put in the work and be there for the kids. So everyone is all in for those kids. And so that is the mission. That's what we are driven to. Even though we have a large health center and a pharmacy and a dental program, that is surrounded around the patient. It's really all the revenue that we do is either for the kids, like saving for a $13 million building, or paying for their Silverwood field trips, that summer program. So a large portion of our third-party revenue goes back into those kids' programs that are unfunded because they're considered prevention-style modalities. So a lot of insurance companies don't fund it. So they don't
I
fund
see.
you being healthy. They don't pay for being healthy. And so we have to go out and get grants for that. And we have to go out and use our own monies to put back into those programs. And really, the past 35 years has been a testament of how that practice is very sustainable and financially stable with us, at least how we've been using it. And so it's been working, and it has been working for our community. It's been expanding, but it also is a best practice. So I think it's pretty cool.
That is really cool. And that leads us into our next question. That's a huge win just for the history of the Native Project. But could you think of some other organizational wins that you want to mention?
I would definitely say buying the original building that we had over here in 2003, because our board members and our executive leadership at the time floated their own credit and put out
Wow.
loans. And
That's commitment.
Right? And they bought it with cash by 2003. And then we bought each of these city lots by 2008 in cash for the youth services programs, and was able to build a huge clinic. And then the past 12 years, we were able to save revenue and build a $13 million building. So I swear, every building keeps getting bigger. And it's literally like that Field of Dreams movie. If you build it, they will come. And we're like, what the heck? And so, and in the political atmosphere of Spokane County right now, every adolescent treatment program in Spokane County has shut down since 2020, except the Native Project and the Healing Lodge. And so all of those treatment centers have shut doors. Like, where are these kids? Did all their
They
drug
don't just
problems go away?
disappear.
Like,
No.
did opioid use go away? Did marijuana use go away? Did alcohol use go away? No, but here we are building a $13 million building in preparation for that post-COVID fallout of mental health and SUD services for our youth. And so it was like by divine design that happened. And so I think that'll be awesome at some point. Our goal is to buy back America, each city lot one by one, all the way
Yes.
down West Central.
Hey, land back, dude. You shouldn't have to buy it.
Right? We shouldn't even have to buy it.
That's right. So the next question is, what does healing look like for you individually and as a community? You could answer them separately if you want.
Well, they're never separate in our community. They're together. Individually, it's being cognizant and aware of your daily prayer, your daily meditation, and what you bring, your spiritual gifts and your value to your family. And then into your family, you instill that, and they instill that into your community, and into your community, they instill that back into you. And so for me, it's very secular or very reciprocating that knowing that if people see you walk the talk, like, I don't drink or do drugs, you shouldn't drink or do drugs, they're more likely to understand and believe in that because you're practicing that. Well, I'm on my path, my healing journey, and everybody has a different healing journey, from people who are affected by meth and heroin and opioids to people who are affected by being unhoused, and just everybody on the gamut, for being the wealthiest casino millionaire in the town. Like, everybody is in their own health journey, and it's very personal and very particular, but there are healing modalities within our community that can be brought out into group settings, or even sitting and doing culture and beading with the grandmas and you're a young woman, or sitting and doing culture with the grandpas and you're a young man, and you're learning your traditions and you're learning those stories. That in of itself is medicine. So we create those areas like community wellness and summer program and our leadership programs, so you have access to them as our patient. So knowing, okay, I might have an actual ear infection, but so I need to see the doctor, but I also want to make to wellness because I want to finish my regalia for this summer's powwow season. And I love sitting with the grandmas and aunties, so I'm going to make that a concept or a point to go and do and engage in. And so even just having access to that is something we never had access to while we were off the reserves.
Right.
And so creating that access in that space, every person that walks through our doors as our staff are in some form some type of healer, whether you're the doctor or the cultural specialist to the CEO to the maintenance man. You at some point have some gifts you're bringing that brings healing into the community and into the circle. And so knowing those people and knowing your mentors and knowing your community members, and you're seeking that, it strengthens and bonds and attaches our community to each other. And so we know each other. So like I said, the past 35 years, all the little kids in our programs now, I know all their parents because I went to these programs with our parents, and I know all their grandparents because they were our chaperones and leaders and mentors. And so it's like, I'm gonna tell your grandma on you. You don't know my grandma. Oh, I do. And then I say their name and they're like, oh. And so, it's just like, okay, I'll be quiet then. I'll just, okay. But in school settings, they're not getting that. They're not getting that exposure. They're not getting that cultural norming and understanding. So it's a great space to come and sit and be in community with each other. So that's how I heal. I heal from each other. I heal from myself. I heal from the doctors. I heal from being out in nature. We know these concepts, and we know some of them are super simple. And just, you got to make time. You got to make that a point and make that like your goal for that year to become healthier in whatever way you need to be healthier. So that's my healing concept.
That's great. This next question is related. I think it's related to healing. How do you celebrate and bring joy into your life?
Just being in those small moments. So, and appreciating those moments. Like my uncle, who was a spiritual leader in this community, passed away about a month ago. And my kids, I was trying to explain, now that I'm a mother, it's different because I've always attended our funerals and our burial and ceremony, but not as a mother. And this time it was very different, like, because I had small humans to report to and try to decipher, what does grief mean? What does community meaning in grief? Why do we do it this way? Why is the, funeral in this way and this many days? And why are we, all the billions of questions. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, I wouldn't want it any other way. Look at this. This is beautiful. Everybody from the community comes out and brings what they need to give for the grief, but brings the stories and brings the medicine like sweetgrass and the sage and the tobacco and the good words and the songs. And you sit there and you hear the cries and you feel their grief and you cry with them and for them, because we know as Indigenous people that has to come out of the body so it doesn't stay traumatized inside your body. But then in preparation to that, I was even thinking, like my husband, they went and sweat. They did sweat lodge and they taught my sons how to do that. And it was a week-long journey of going through grief. Just like when we're born, we have these week-long baby showers and preparation for celebration. And I'm like, I would never want to grieve in any other way than this way within my community, and knowing each other and being there and just hugging them and putting, our past fights down and having to see the family and just you're forced to be there with them and maybe at that point talk it out afterwards.
Sure.
But it requires coming together and having that. And so I think that the being in joy, even during times of grief, and being in that moment of, I love this. I get to hear these stories about my uncle. I love this. My aunties are, made these beautiful ribbon shirts and ribbon skirts for the honorees. And it's like, when did we get chances to do that? We all sat around and sewed and talked it up. And like, I love these tiny moments. So that's where bring joy. And so bringing joy to the community, like especially running a health center, ensuring that those moments of joy are brought to our patients through our providers and through our nursing staff, through our front desk staff, having like that final relief. Oh my gosh, I made it to clinic. It took me 2 months. I talked myself into it. Now let's, take those couple of first steps to being healthier. And so I feel like bringing joy and doing joy are the same like concept. You get the joy and you should be giving that back and creating that space to have that experience. Yeah, that's my joy.
Nice. That's deep. That's some deep joy. It sounds like you practice it all the time.
Try
know
to.
What's up.
Try to, at least once a day with each of my kids.
Oh, that's sweet.
At least.
All right. This next question, what do you reimagine for Spokane?
Oh my geez, kindness. Like simple kindness. Like maybe not having to like argue as much, but just be kind to each other. Like, we are in a trauma mode post-COVID, and we're like fighting like reservation dogs over one piece of meat. Like, why can't we be kind and say, hey, stop, let's figure this out and cut it up and divide it and just everybody walk away with the same peace, and then let's move into our spaces in a healthy way. And I feel like that's how I would reimagine this book again. Being kind to one another and accepting and loving of one another. And that's it. It's really not complicated. And people say, oh, it's so complicated, this and that. No. The people in leadership have more responsibility to afford that to our community and demonstrate that to our community than anybody else. So if I ever ran for office, I would know my job is to be kind and accept everybody just out of love for being a human and wanting more or better for our communities, and appreciating that we have our own knowledge and culture, and we're not a melting pot. We're more like a tossed salad because we keep our form, right? If we're in a tossed salad, we keep our form as tomatoes and as onions and as the lettuce. But if we're all shredded, it's like we're not shredded. We have our own identities. We have our own concepts, but we're still in the same bowl together. We're still making the same salad, right?
Yeah, we get to be our whole selves.
Yeah.
Our whole ingredients.
Right. We have to be our whole selves, or otherwise it's not going to work. So let us be our whole self. So be kind and be loving and accepting of each other. That's it. It just drives me insane. And the older I've gotten, the more I realize why our elders did that. But when I was younger, I was one of those, I'm marching the streets, I'm over this, I'm gonna protest, I'm gonna have my sign, and I was rowdy. I was just rowdy. But now I'm like, okay, I understand. For people to work together, we have to have a baseline of respect and acceptance and move out of love. And just be like, if this is what they're saying they need, that is what they need, and I have to respect that. How do I support that? Versus, I already know what you need, this is what you got, and then here's all the money you get, figure it out. That's very transactional. It's very capitalistic. It's very oligarchy. I'm like, that's not how we've survived for 250 years, we meaning Indigenous people. So we're not going to operate in that way. Maybe we'll take some of your pennies you toss at us, but doesn't mean we're going to behave. It may mean we turn it around and require you to be at the table again, and let's do this over. And so I feel like Indigenous people are in a very special pocket of the community that can throw that weight around, but I am very cognizant and feel for our other communities that don't have that luxury or privilege, and bonding and attaching to those community leaders is imperative just as much as bonding and attaching to the mayor or the city council persons, because that really in and of itself is going to be the network to get shit done.
Yeah, let's get this shit done.
SHIT done. So yeah.
That's great. All right. I'm sad we're at our last question already. But how can people get involved or learn more about your organization or just be a part of this community?
Getting involved. We love people coming to our community wellness nights. That's usually like the foot in the door point of access, because there we're selling all our services. We have nutrition, diabetes, medical, dental, but it's all community based. So you get to play basketball, there's homework room, there's culture nights, there's youth council nights, there's dinner and healthy cooking nights for the family, there's bingo, there's games. There's all this fun stuff, but we're really doing commercials throughout the time, like, come see the dentist, come see our doctors if you need a shot, or if you don't feel. And every month is some kind of community promotion, like men's health, women's health, children's health, and just awareness about what goes on in our communities, especially specifically for higher mortality issues like domestic violence or tobacco cessation classes, or what is fentanyl and what is opioid overdose and how can you use Narcan. So there's going to be like serious stuff that goes on there, but also fun and engaging stuff. So you're using your mind, but you're also moving your body, doing physical activity as well. And usually that's the opening point. We do take volunteers at these programs that we have to screen through, and then also just being community partners on, like when we host our events throughout the year, just to come and say, hey, I want to volunteer, come and sign up and we'll volunteer you at our powwows, at our COVAX clinics, our immunization clinics, at our trunk or treat, at our wellness programs, at our summer program. A lot of people do come and volunteer or check it out. You can even walk in as a public health facility and ask for me, and I have to give a tour, like, of the building and of our new building and of our old building and the story, because it's publicly funded. It's open for the public, so you have access. You just gotta know how to ask, I guess. But you can also follow us all on our social media and website, and then we'll tell you what our health promotions and how to get in contact with us or ask for resources. But yeah,
And what are your social media and website handles?
The Real Native Project on Instagram, and
The Real Native Project.
and then the Native Project on Facebook. And I don't think we do Twitter anymore, but I think those are our two. And then www.nativeproject.org is our website.
Awesome.
So you can find us there, hanging out.
And you have this big, beautiful couple of buildings here at 1803 West Maxwell
Yes.
in West Central.
The poorest district in the state of Washington.
But yeah,
But we're beautiful. We look beautiful. We don't look poor, but we're in the poorest district
we
in
don't
the state
look
of Washington.
poor, but they are. No, that's not what we want to end it with.
No.
No, the neighborhood might be poor, but you're bringing all this wealth of community and knowledge and traditional knowledge and medicine and just being that community space for people.
Right. We love our community and our neighbors because we never get tagged, and everybody watches out for our building for us. So our community neighbors will come and tell us, so this was what's up, and this is what happened in this car. And so
That's great.
although we have cameras, I'm like, our hood got us too. So
That's right.
we throw down for our community and our neighborhood. But yes, we love this place, and we love our people, and we love our patients. We just love our community. And I really do imagine Spokane being mature enough and able to get to that point of being loving and accepting and moving through love, and being able to be kind to one another in the face of differences. I mean, differences are the best part about us. So, yeah.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Dylan, for your time and your wisdom and just for sharing all of this with our listeners and thinking about the future being now as far as our babies, our elders, and who we are today. So thank you again.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much to our sponsor, Empire Health Community Action Fund, our producer, Form Studio, our music producers, Ryan and Kyle, and to our listeners and voters for helping to create a future that we can have now. Thank you for listening to The Future Is Now. Currently, Reimagine Spokane is a program of Asians for Collective Liberation in Spokane. It was the brainchild of Executive Director Ryan Louie as the feeling and energy that we intend to belong and be accessible to everyone so that they can join us and others in creating a new Spokane. For more info, check out our website at reimaginespokane.us and find us on social media at Reimagine Spokane.